Parody movies have long held a special place as being a lifeline of memories and laughter for me. Countless nights spent up late at night with cousins and friends watching such classics as the Scary Movie series, Airplane, Austin Powers, and anything really by Mel Brooks.
Look what I got here! Hey, where are the white women at?
Hell, even the awfully rated movies that truly have some of the worst scores ever, and I mean ever, are enjoyable to watch. While slapstick comedies and direct ripoffs may be the only thing people think of when thinking of parodies today, the genre actually runs so much deeper.
Pizza the Hut!
In fact, there are some movies that are considered parodies that I would see as comedic genius, or however you would want to call it.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
These movies generally portray and mock a theme while generating a plot-driven storyline. And I'm not ashamed to admit it, I've fallen privy to this plenty of times watching these movies and not even realizing that they're a parody. I never even knew that Austin Powers was a parody of James Bond until I watched it maybe 100 times, and I was 15 years old. I just believed it to be another spy comedy trilogy. In hindsight, there are definitely things that are dead giveaways. But the overall theme of the movie itself is not reliant on being a parody for it to be good. It doesn't rely on the constant references of other works of media in order to be funny. And just like anything, good writing can make or break the immersion of the audience. Mocking something has its limits. If you're spitting on Jeff Bezos, everyone will cheer. If you spit on the old lady, everyone will hate you. It's pretty simple. The best parodies weave their humor into the storyline and tend to mock their respective genre without abruption to the storytelling. Some of my favorite parody movies include a plethora of both highly rated and terribly rated movies. I can't sit here and tell you that Terror at Bloodfart Lake is a quality-made film. It isn't.
Amazing special effects!
It's an awful slasher movie about a bunch of friends going to a lake and getting murdered. But that doesn't mean I don't love it. You know how many times my friends and I would watch this movie high out of our minds in someone's basement? And it's special times like that with these awful movies that truly build memories and bonds that last a lifetime. Even when some of those friendships fade away, the memories never do. So let's take a look at some of the best and worst parody movies to bless the screen and to bless our hearts. Let's go. Good parody movies seem like they've been out of style over the past few decades. And I truly mean that. Even taking a look at the IMDb Top 50 Parody Movies Recommended, not a single one of them is from the last 10 years, with A Million Ways to Die in the West being from 2014. But is this really something crazy to believe? I don't really think so. It's not that hard to believe when we just take a look at the progression of the films in the parody genre. Parody films didn't become too popular until the late 1970s and the early 80s. Prior to that, films like The Great Dictator and Carry On Sergeant played more as satires to real-world people and to real-world events. But we also saw Abbott and Costello, who parodied Universal monster movies like The Invisible Man, Dracula, and Frankenstein. Then in 1967, Casino Royale came out, and that was a parody of James Bond.
These are my credentials.
Soon, progression to the 70s and 80s seemed to be where story-based parodies began to come about. Movies like Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, Airplane, Monty Python, Spaceballs, The Naked Gun. These movies were truly great films. They were well written, well directed, and they were filled with world-class stars, making a genre of art that we still enjoy to this day. In 2025 alone, I've watched all of these movies at least once. I mean, how can you not enjoy them? And there was a primary group of individuals behind these movies that helped lead the way in the genre for some 30-odd years. Names like Mel Brooks, Gene Wilder, David Zucker, Leslie Nielsen, Jerry Zucker, Jim Abrams, and Pat Proft. This is just to name a few.
Fageless?
No. We're straight. Just married.
Mel Brooks, who is 98 years old, holy cow.
Can't punch a horse. Oh,
He was a dominant force in creating such hits as Spaceballs and Young Frankenstein. Leslie Nielsen's career took a major switch from acting as a serious character in TV shows and sci-fi movies for over 20 years, from the 50s to the 70s, including one of my favorites, The Forbidden Planet. But with Airplane in 1980, Nielsen turned to a comedic icon with later classics such as his character Frank Drebin from Police Squad and the Naked Gun trilogy,
Maybe this will refresh your memory.
as well as President Harris in Scary Movie 3 and 4.
So we're not so different after all.
And where would we be without the Zucker brothers and Jim Abram, often referred to as the Zazz Team? They're to thank for movies like Airplane, Kentucky Fried Movie, and Police Squad. However, the trio did go on to split in 1990 following creative differences, but all remaining good friends until Abrams sadly passed in 2024. Rest in peace, Jim.
I'll be back in a minute.
But besides the trio working together, they each had their own creative power to make their own works. David Zucker went on to work on pieces such as directing Basketball alongside Trey Parker and Matt Stone. Additionally, directing some of my favorites, Scary Movie 3 and Scary Movie 4.
You okay, kiddo? Yeah, boy.
His brother, Jerry Zucker, took a more serious route to his career and directed the movie Ghost shortly after the trio split. Talk about a shift. And Jim Abrams can be thanked for another classic parody of Top Gun, Hot Shots, starring Charlie Sheen and Carrie Ewells, two people quite familiar with the parody genre. With the creativity flowing amongst the writers, producers, directors, and stars, nothing seemed like it could go wrong. Sure, a few craps were taken along the way, but the box office success of these movies continued to grow. Spaceballs hit $38 million. Movies like Naked Gun hit $75 million, and the parody of Top Gun, Hot Shots, grossed $181 million worldwide. The potential was there to make money, and the movies kept coming. As the 90s and early 2000s came and went, the genre soared even higher, continuing to push out gems such as Robin Hood Men in Tights, Mars Attacks, Mystery Men, and Galaxy Quest.
Silent, but deadly.
And in addition, we continued to see success like the Wayans Family Dynasty as they released Don't Be a Menace to South Central in 1996, which came after their successes in other titles such as I'm Gonna Get You Sucka in 1988, which was one of their first big titles. And also, this was made after their sketch-based comedy show In Living Color, which we can thank for helping launch the list of prominent future stars such as Jim Carrey, Jamie Foxx, and Jennifer Lopez, to name a few. Thank you, Wayans Family.
Squeeze me? Oh, no, you did.
And as I said earlier, Mike Myers, later joined by Michael McMullins,
I wanna hump a lot. All right, zip it.
created the Austin Powers trilogy, not only being one of the greatest box office successes for comedy and parody movies, but also one of the greatest cultural phenomenons. And that's something quite interesting about these movies, the culture that is shaped by the creators of some of these works. Think of the amount of influence any media has had over you in your life.
What's the matter, Colonel Sanders? Chicken? Prepare ship! Prepare ship for
For
ludicrous
Christ's sakes, Elon Musk has half of his personality memed after Rick Moranis in Spaceballs. Ludicrous speed, come on, that's a little weird. But surely, how can I be so serious?
I am serious.
Well, let's be serious about this.
So I just pulled my tongue out of her ass and left.
Scary Movie. Now, this series is gold in my opinion, and I am biased. The third one is my favorite probably because I've watched it the most with my friends. No other reason. But the first three movies are fascinating. Really no certain order that I can put these in. I will watch these all day, any day. The fourth one is, well, it has its moments. And the fifth one, well,
she looks great.
yet one of the funniest things I discovered about this series was that it got hit hard with some bad awards. And I mean bad awards. One of the funniest being that Scary Movie 3 got nominated for Worst Screenplay to gross $100 million at the box office, with Hollywood math, losing only to Cat in the Hat, which that alone is another tale to dive deep into later.
Shut up! I mean it! I will end you!
Well, the writers that got nominated were Craig Mazin and Pat Proft. Pat Proft was one of those super big prominent names that I discussed earlier. Now, although Proft hasn't done much since the early 2000s, he still holds accreditation for being a writer on such movies as Police Academy, the Naked Gun trilogy, and being a director as well as the writer of Leslie Nielsen's Wrongfully Accused. However, Craig Mazin continued his work in Hollywood, going on to create and write such shows as Chernobyl and The Last of Us. Yeah, you heard that right. So whenever you're feeling down about yourself and that you won't achieve much of anything, just know that you can write not only one of the worst screenplays ever, but also go on to create one of the best TV shows ever. Or I should say, two of the best TV shows ever. And perhaps that is a difference with the parody movies of the genre that started kind of coming out around in the early 2000s. The writing and direction just seemed to kind of literally hit a brick wall. And that wall was the movies. Scary movie, epic movie, disaster movie, extreme movie, not another teen movie, date movie, and so many more in this category of parodies. And the subcategory are attributed to two individuals, Jason Friedberg and Aaron Seltzer.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Now first off, these two created some of my favorite bad movies. Epic movie, date movie, superhero movie. I fucking love these movies. I just watched Epic Movie a few nights ago with my girlfriend and we were pissing our pants laughing. But the thing is, I know that movie sucks. I know it's terrible. As media has progressed from forms of newspaper to radio to TV to TikTok, our attention span decreased. And these movies were literally a first form of brain rot for people my age. Think about it. Constant reference after reference, just like Family Guy. These parodies became more about getting in as many jokes as possible about as many movies as possible that came out within the last year or two. Let's take, for example, Epic Movie. This movie makes reference to constant movies over and over and over. Same thing with Disaster Movie. There has to be well over a dozen references within the first 5 minutes of the movie. Why though? This isn't really funny. The 1.9 out of 10 on IMDb should be a good indicator of that. It's like our comedy went from asking ourselves to why a fart is funny, to now being that fart equals funny. You can't just tell a joke and expect a laugh, which is what a lot of people think nowadays, especially those that think comedy became illegal. It didn't. You're just not funny, and you suck. You have to create a good joke, one that is coherent, or these laughs that you get are just cheap and pointless after a while. But that's not what these movies did. They made jokes just because they could. For example, in Disaster Movie, the main character wakes up from a wild dream that alone has references to 10,000 BC, American Gladiators, there's a poop joke, there's a girl scream joke, Amy Winehouse is in it, Facebook. There's so much tossed into such a short span of time. Anyways, he wakes up from his dream and says that it must have been the Ambien he took that gave him those crazy dreams. It shows a giant bottle of Ambien. There's really no jokes besides that. Ambien gives you crazy dreams and makes you sleepy. It's a direct joke from point A to B without any thinking. Think of a door slamming shut while exploring a haunted house and someone says, must have been the wind. Guys, he's right behind me, isn't he? It's an odd humor that really pisses off a lot of people. And I think it pisses off people who want comedy to be kind of smart, because it goes back to those low blow punches. They're not that funny. Many things can be turned into a satirical form or be made fun of to a certain degree if done properly. But at this point in life, making jokes just because you can get a few cheap laughs out of some idiots, it's just lazy. It's boring. Anybody can do it, which means there's no skill to it. There's no skill to being funny. Anybody can be a piece of shit and try to be funny. But yet these people often never reflect it onto themselves. But that's a side piece to discuss another day. But if we want to look at a similar sleeping medication joke that actually works, we look to Spaceballs. In Mel Brooks' hit film from 1987, Princess Vespa is set to marry Prince Valium. Now that alone is funny enough with their names being a play on words. But throughout the whole movie,
He's the last prince left in the galaxy.
Prince Valium is always yawning and sleepy. Well, Valium is the brand name for a little drug, you know it, diazepam. Now, this is known to cause sleepiness and drowsiness as main side effects, so you see there's that added layering to the joke. In Disaster Movie, the joke is, haha, I had a crazy dream because of Ambien. In Spaceballs, the joke is that Prince Valium is lazy and tired all the time, which is a premise for why Princess Vespa leaves him at the altar and runs away to create the whole plotline of the movie to come. But he is lazy and tired because his name is a play on the medication that soothes the nervous system and has a side effect known to cause drowsiness in individuals. Crazy. In essence, the joke just has more thought put into it over the other. Now, these movies are parodies that we all know, but there are hidden parodies too. And I'm talking about movies that parody entire themes but are truly originals. One of which is Shrek, parodying the fairy tale tropes of old, from princesses being locked away in towers to magical creatures to fairy tale land and far, far away. Media like this is truly a great parody. Even modern day movies like Kick-Ass, which is an action comedy spoof on superhero comic book characters who take up vigilantism. They work well because the thought of them being a parody doesn't come to the forefront of your mind. You don't even realize it's making fun of something.
You're gonna be fine, baby doll.
But again, the definition of a parody can be muddied with this thinking, so I generally like to separate them. Anyways though, what do you all think makes or breaks a good parody movie? What are some of your favorite ones that have come out, and what are some ones that you're looking forward to in the future? Maybe one day I'll put together a tier list of movies in this genre and break them down even more. But anyways, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you.